Yeah, we have 6 varieties of hops growing out there, and we've been told from the state we're actually the 3rd largest hop farm in the state. Don't blink, you'll miss it, because it's not that big. Virginia used to be very huge for growing hops a long time ago, and that went out, and so it's starting to come back. And
Hi everyone, and welcome to Virginia Wine TV. Today we are at Corcoran Brewery and Corcoran Vineyards. We have Brewmaster Kevin Bills and we have Lori Corcoran with us today. So first we're going to start talking a little bit about the brewery. Many of you may not know that there actually is a brewery here at Corcoran. So Kevin, let's talk about your brewing style and what's going on over here.
Okay, well, Corcoran Brewing, we opened July 30th of last year. We're the first winery in the state to also have a brewery. So we opened mid-year. By the time we opened, we already knew demand was far bigger than we ever expected it to be. The original intention was just to add a little something extra to the winery to complement the winery for all the parties that come out to the winery that have beer drinkers with them, or perhaps beer drinkers that were dragged along on a wine tour, to have something else here to partake in as well. But like I said, by the time we opened, we quickly noticed that we just did not meet capacity. We started on a very small system, only a half barrel, which is basically one full-size keg, and we were having trouble keeping up with demand. In our first 3 months we were open, we were closed one weekend each month because we were just out of beer. In fact, we're right now in that situation again. We just don't have enough beer right now. But in the meantime, the last few months we've been adding on to the building, added on a larger space for brewing, have larger equipment, so we're growing 7 times bigger, and we'll be able to definitely keep up with demand here, as well as expand our hours, and then do a little distribution to some restaurants as well.
So I understand you guys grow your own hops here, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 6 varieties of hops growing out there, and we've been told from the state we're actually the 3rd largest hop farm in the state. Don't blink, you'll miss it, because it's not that big. Virginia used to be very huge for growing hops a long time ago, and that went out, and so it's starting to come back. I know Blue Mountain down in Charlottesville, they grow their own hops. We're growing our own. There's a couple other small farms in the state, and then we're actually adding a few more this year, 4 more varieties I'll be adding, and then so we hope eventually to be using most of our own hops versus ones that get imported or from the Northwest U.S. where most hops are grown here.
So how many different beers do you have at any given time?
At any given time we have up to 6. We only have 6 taps on hand at a time. With the expansion, it's possible we might add a couple. The plan is really just to be able to keep up with demand with that right now. So up to 6 beers at a time. We're up to, I think I counted the other day, 14 or 15 different recipes in our repertoire so far, and I'm continually adding more as we go on.
And how long is the brewing process?
For actually brewing it, just in a day's work, it's pretty much a full day's work getting a batch, or I can get 2 batches done in a day on this small system right now. But then it ferments for a couple weeks and conditions in the kegs for a couple weeks, so you're looking at typically at least a month from grain to glass. Some you want it to sit a little longer, especially some styles like lagers, the Kolsch has to age a little longer, so you let it sit a little more.
So what do we have on tap now?
Right now we've got our Commonwealth Kolsch. Our tagline is great beer with a loco attitude, loco being Loudoun County. So most of our names we try and use local area names, town names, and other landmarks, things of that nature. So Commonwealth, obviously the Commonwealth of Virginia, Commonwealth Kolsch. Wheatland is the tiny little town you probably drove through here on the way here. That is our American wheat beer. Peeville is a nickname for Percival. It's the town I live in down the road. This is our American Pale Ale. Loco is our English style India Pale Ale. Most people are familiar with American style India Pale Ales, the Dogfish Heads and things like that. But this is a British style, which is much more laid back on the hops, not as hop-centric of a flavor. Catoctin Ale is for the Catoctin Creek, Catoctin Mountains. It's a name used a lot. That's actually my oldest recipe. I've had that one for about almost 9 years, I guess, that I've been brewing that one at home and now here. And then Round Hill is actually our root beer, but it's an alcoholic root beer. It's not just a soda. It's a 8% alcohol beer.
Alcoholic root beer.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great with ice cream.
Yeah, that's what people keep saying, and we keep running out of it, and I haven't been able to try that myself. But yeah, it's an 8% alcohol. It's an ale, and then spiced with natural roots: sarsaparilla, yucca root, ginger root. I think there's some vanilla in there. So So local ingredients, we try to when we can. In our pumpkin ale that we had in the fall, we used local honey. I would love to use more of that. It's actually a pretty costly thing. The amount I used in the pumpkin ale, it was very easy to do that. Some things like the root beer actually use a lot more honey in. So hopefully we can find it a little more cost effective locally. But other than that, some things we grow. Lori has an herb garden out here. She had some cilantro growing in there, and the seeds from cilantro, the coriander seed, get used in Belgian whites. I used some in the Emmanuel, which was my Christmas ale. What else have we used local?
Well, the pumpkins.
Oh yeah, pumpkins, yeah, definitely. Our pumpkin beer, which was huge. We got all our pumpkins from Wegmeyer Farms outside Percival and Great Country Farms in Bluemont. And then next year I'll be trying to grow some myself, but also getting more from them. So we'll be brewing a lot of that.
Is that going to be part of the expansion process here at Corcoran?
What's that?
Growing some
Growing?
of your own?
The pumpkins, we thought about doing it here. Deer get into it too
Right.
much. But actually I've got
Well, at least they're not getting into the beer.
Exactly. So I'll just be growing that myself actually at my in-laws farm where there's some space that's perfect for growing pumpkins and the deer don't come through that part too much. So
Well, let's talk about the expansion because we just were talking about the brewery. What does having a brewery here at Corcoran Vineyards do for the winery?
I think it actually, like Kevin said, it actually adds like a bonus feature. So having beer and wine all in one place is actually probably the best type of atmosphere that we could give people. We've also brought on barbecue, so we have food, and they use all of our wines and beer to make sauces with the barbecue. So we're trying to expand in more ways than one.
And are you selling the sauces?
Yeah, we will be selling this year.
And we're selling beer here too, right?
Yes.
So you can take home beer. What's kind of the price range?
yes, right now we only have sell beer by the growler, which is a half gallon of beer, equates to almost a 6-pack, 5 2/3 beers. And
About 5.5 beers here?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And the prices, if you have your own growlers from other breweries, you can bring them in to fill up. A lot of people still have tons from when Old Dominion was around, so a lot of people bring in the swing top ones. We use these more basic screw top ones. So if you don't have your own, it's $5 just for the bottle, and you can fill this up usually at other breweries as well. Bring it back here to get it filled up. To fill them, depending on the beer style, it's $14 or $16 for some of our specialties. And I'm starting to do some barrel aging, and those ones might cost a little more because of the alcohol content and the taxes involved. And
Right.
all that stuff.
So this is, you bring this home and you drink it right then. It's not something you want to put in the fridge.
You pretty much, excuse me, you've pretty much got about a week before you really want to start using it up. But much like a 2-liter bottle of soda, if you take it home and drink a glass out of it, it's now got headspace in there, it's going to start going flat.
Right.
So I tell people once you open a growler, you've pretty much got a day or two, probably 2 days, before it just loses its fits.
What's your favorite beer that you make?
My favorite is the Catoctin. So that's the recipe I've had for
pale
years.
ale?
It's an English pale ale.
All right.
So it's amber in color, not very hoppy, pretty mild, but one that I could drink 6 of with dinner, and the alcohol content's low enough I'm not intoxicated, but also the flavor complements a lot of things. Not an overly hoppy beer that after 1 or 2 your taste buds are kind of dead.
So would you consider yourself a boutique-y style brewery? Kind of compare yourself to the other big breweries that we have in the area, and what sets you apart from them?
What sets us apart? Definitely our size. I mean, everyone else, the next smallest I know in the region is on a 10-barrel system, and I'm upgrading to a 3.5-barrel system. So
We're called a nano brewery.
yeah,
Right.
we're called nano. With the larger system, we're on the cusp of being nano versus micro because there's no official definition of nano brewery. So being that small allows me to really experiment a lot more. So some new beers I'm working on, I made it, we kind of liked it, threw it on tap. While we can't sell it, we sample it out to people and see what people like, and take that feedback to go back to the drawing board, maybe hop it up a little more, things like that. So I'll be doing a lot more one-off little batches of experimental things.
And what about you talk about this barbecue? I mean, beer and barbecue, that's just an amazing combination. Do you guys do tastings similar to what you would do in a winery with wine pairings and whatnot?
We haven't with the beer. I mean, we did a beer dinner at Magnolia's at the mill last May, but nothing pairing outside of that one, and we'll probably be doing a couple more with them in Tuscaloosa.
Well, hopefully our viewers will now know that there is a brewery here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get some more people out here.
Yeah.
And I understand you just won an award for one of your wines.
Well, the People's Choice Award in Virginia Wine Lover magazine was voted the best fruit wine.
And
overall.
are you doing a lot of fruit wines?
I am. I'm doing a raspberry, merlot, a blackberry, apple, and limoncello. So.
Well, I'm thirsty, so
Yeah.
why don't we taste something? What do you suggest?
The one you poured while we had the name for Peeville is actually our Corky's Irish Red Ale.
So
So
this is what we have
that's-
right
yeah.
here? Okay.
got another
So
one there for you, Lauren.
Thank you.
So this is
Wow.
it's Irish Red Ale, akin to sort of like a Schmittix Ale, and it's named after the owner, Jim and Lori's father-in-law, Jim's dad. His nickname is Corky.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, it's really smooth.
Mhm.
Very happy.
So Jim was talking to us earlier about tasting beer, and it's a little similar to what we would do with wine in terms of the palate and the
Mhm.
finishes and whatnot. Can you explain kind of what we're trying to pick up on this?
Well, with beer, you focus on kind of three things, I would say. First is the aroma. I mean, trick to beer is also being in a good glass. For if you're drinking by a pint, these are basically our tasting glasses.
And
So.
this is a nice cold glass.
Yes, yeah, we
With
serve
just
them
the
out of the
width of
fridge.
the opening.
Well, you kind of when you take a beer to your mouth, you want your nose to be in it too,
Okay.
so that you get that aroma, because especially the hops give a lot of aroma to the beer, and so you want to smell that. That accentuates your taste buds and kind of alerts your taste buds, hey, something yummy's coming. But the next is obviously the taste and the flavor, and then of course the aftertaste. Some beers are going to leave a little more sting on your tongue from the hop flavor or from the malt. A nice lager will leave a sweetness, whereas a very hoppy beer obviously will leave a bitterness on your tongue.
This is excellent. Really smooth.
And this one's about 5.5% alcohol, more malty than most beers, but that's true to the style for an Irish Red.
What's the highest amount of alcohol that you have in any of your beers?
Right now, actually, the root beer is the highest alcohol.
Really?
Yes. We started very basic since we can only sell beer by the growler. I wanted beers that people could drink in a night or two before it goes flat, whereas beers you buy by the bottle, a 6-pack, if it's a 14% alcohol beer, you can have one of them and that's fine.
Right.
If this was all 14% alcohol and incredibly hopped out the wazoo, you're probably going to drink one of those before, although there are some hop heads out there that would love it, but if it's high alcohol, you're not going to drink the whole one.
Real bitter, right?
Real bitter, yeah. You're not going to get through one of these and make it to your bed if it's that high in alcohol. And similarly, if it's high in hops, it probably wouldn't complement too many foods in that quantity. So we started with more basics, mostly 5 to 6% alcohol beers. As we've started getting much more beer nuts in here, I'm starting to expand those out. So I've got an American IPA coming that will be hoppy. Like I said, the root beer is 8% alcohol. We have a black IPA called Once You Go Black Ale that is also 8% alcohol. And I'm trying to think what else is higher.
What about the one, is it the porter that's in the barrels?
Well, the porter's not in the barrel yet. The porter, I want to say, was 6.5% alcohol. But then, yes, my favorite was the Catoctin Ale. We've taken a couple batches of that and filled a barrel from Catoctin Creek Distillery with it. So it's going to impart some of the flavor of the oak as well as the whiskey in there. And that'll end up probably about 7.5% when it's done. And then I'll be doing the same thing with some bourbon barrels with that Catoctin, with our stout, and with some others as I just tinker.
Excellent. Thank you so much for chatting with
Sure.
me today.
Thank you.
Looking forward to tasting some more, Lori. Thank you.
You're
Pleasure.
welcome.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Come on out to Corcoran and enjoy some beer, some wine, and some barbecue.
It's luncheon.
Woohoo!